This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Good morning, truth seekers and true crime junkies. Welcome back to an episode of Hit the Road, Jack, Finding the Zodiac. We're going to start again the show today by introducing Nolan Del Campo, attorney at law.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Terry Batcher,
Hey,
one of my great researchers. Hi there. How are you doing?
I'm very well, and I say that as I meant to say, hiya kids, in the sense of being all of God's children, which I'm certainly all are.
Yes.
It always seem like it, but.
And now we have Harriet Suchet, who handles the code solves in this case.
Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Oh, wow. It's going to be a great week. It is going to be an absolute week. So you guys will find out later.
I'm just going to hop right on into the presentation at this point because we're going to pick up where we left off. We're going to be talking about some of the final unsolved murders that occur in California before Jack exits California, and we don't see any murders for about 14 months that are unsolved. Now, it's not that I'm saying he committed all of these murders that we're about to talk about. Harriet kind of fills in some of the things that she believes the solves are sharing with us in regards to some of these victims. A lot of people have believed that other people were involved with some of these killings, so kind of does make some sense here that not all of these murders can be completely attributed to Jack, but based on his proximity, he should be considered or at least investigated in regards to them. So we are going to start out in September 30th of 1975 with Janet Lee Bowman from Humboldt. She was found in Eureka. We have letters to Eureka from the Zodiac Killer. Do you have any information on Janet Lee Bowman, Harriet?
No, but that has, I think, something to do with, I think we're going to find that John Walsh and Reve Walsh are somewhere involved with that, because there's a lot going on in that county, that region that is involving them. So I haven't solved anything.
Was John Walsh from the Was John Walsh from the Santa Rosa region?
Dennis said that when he met with John Walsh on a number of times outside of the show that he did, that he had connections to Mendocino County and that part of, Santa Rosa and that area. So I don't
connections?
know if he's born there. Well, he's connected for sure. Yes.
All right, so I'm gonna just gotta read you guys one of the latest. This was a article written on March 7th of 2022. Cold case: HSU student found strangled and raped in a case that may have been the work of a serial killer. Rightfully so. I shouldn't have this in my presentation because I do not believe that the Zodiac Killer was a rapist. Nor any of the crimes that we've looked at where a sexual assault may have occurred using a different object. So he wasn't actually a rapist. He was making it look like they were raped versus actually having raped them. But we're going to talk about this anyways because it is another one of the Santa Rosa hitchhiker murder type murders. In fall of 1975, the murder of a San Diego woman enrolled at Humboldt State University preceded 3 other similar deaths in Humboldt County that would occur over the next 9 months. 4 women's bodies were found within those 9 months, strangled and raped. Law enforcement and the public speculated whether the deaths were the result of a serial killer. To date, the homicides remain unsolved, their similarities unmistakable, but definitely proven to be the work of only one, but not definitively, proven to be the work of only one perpetrator. Over the course of the next few weeks, we at RHBB will be covering these cold cases individually. We'll then take an in-depth look at any similarities or differences as well as possible suspects. The partially disrobed body of Janet Lee Bowman, 19, was found in brush off the side of Highway 299 near the Corbell Way Station, east of Blue Lake, on October 6, 1975. Almost 47 years after her death, her murder remains unsolved. On the morning of October 6th, around 11:30 a.m., the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office received a letter from an anonymous witness who had discovered the body but did not want to be involved in the case. The letter, postmarked on Saturday, October 4th, gave the HCSO directions to Bowman's body that was found partially disrobed, hidden in a bush off in the demonstration forest. HCSO's Lieutenant Roy Simmons said that the anonymous tipster was not suspected in the crime. According to the San Rafael Independent Journal, Bowman graduated from Roanoke Park Rancho Cotati High School in 1974 before enrolling at Humboldt University in Arcata. The 5'2", 95-pound Bowman lived in Arcata during her freshman year at HSU. After completing her freshman year in the spring, Bowman had spent her summer in San Diego with her mother, Nancy Bowman, who had moved to Southern California after Janet graduated high school. Bowman returned to Humboldt County on September 20th in 1975 to enroll in classes for her sophomore year at HSU. Upon her return, she rented a one-bedroom apartment on Pigeon Point Road in Eureka. The petite Bowman did not own a vehicle and was known to frequently hitchhike to get around. The middle child of John and Nancy Bowman was last seen in the morning of September 30th at the welfare office in Eureka. Witnesses said that she was attempting to hitchhike back to her apartment on Pigeon Point Road. A missing persons report was filed for Bowman on October 3rd after her friends noticed she had not attended any of her classes that week. Lieutenant Simmons said that Bowman's friends told detectives that Bowman did not have a boyfriend and did not date. They stated that she was very shy. After the anonymous letter led to the discovery of Bowman's body, HCSO told the media that there were no wounds visible on the body other than bruising on Bowman's face and throat. A subsequent autopsy revealed that she had been strangled and probably raped. How do they say probably raped? I don't. All right. Well, let me finish. Hold on. I said, let me finish this. The later article classified her death as rape and strangulation, even though the original news reports did not definitively confirm the rape. Investigators asked for the public's help in determining if anyone had witnessed Bowman getting into a vehicle, suspecting that she was murdered by whoever had picked her up hitchhiking. Also of interest to investigators were the clothing items belonging to the victim that were not located where her body was found. Bowman was last seen wearing a homemade red skirt with a floral pattern on it over straight leg blue jeans. She had on a blue down jacket, size 5.5, size 5.5, orange suede shoes, and had been carrying a Camp Trails brand green canvas backpack with a zipper pocket and tie strings. No leads proved fruitful for detectives, leading them to offer a $500 reward for information about the death of Janet Bowman. According to an October 22nd article in the Times Standard, at the time, HCSO had a secret witness program to provide anonymity by allowing potential witnesses to send information to the HCSO through the mail. Witness accounts were written down, including a 6-digit code that the letter writer would include in the correspondence, and again at the bottom corner of the letter, which they would then tear off and keep. If the witness account led to the capture of the killer, the HCSO would publish the 6-digit code from the letter in the local newspaper, allowing the tipster to collect the reward. However, the reward enticement did not result in any substantial leads. With the murderer still at large, the Times Standard printed an opinion piece titled "Extreme Dangers of Hitchhiking." The article highlighted the rape and murder of Bowman and the probability that the perpetrator was someone that had picked the student up while hitchhiking. Paper stated that over 15 female hitchhikers had been raped or sexually assaulted from 1974 to 1975. A different article stated that the number was over 20. Janet Lee Bowman, the granddaughter of Reverend Ilian T. Jones, baptized at the age of 5, was laid to rest just 17 days after she returned to Humboldt County. Her life was snuffed out by a killer that was never had to answer for her murder. She was just 19 years old at the time of her death. Of course, the HCSO asked that if anyone has information to share about this case, please contact our crime tip line at 707-268-2539. Submit information using our online crime tip form or email hsotipline@co.humboldt.ca.us. Please reference the case number associated with the case when reporting information. The case number for the death of Janet Lee Bowman is 197-509-543. All right, so now what were you going to say there, Harriet?
Oh my God, there is so much anagrammable information in there. So we can't
anagram somebody's article in 2022. We don't even know if that information is correct. We don't even know if the information is correct.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. That's what's been reported over the years, and then you are
and they misconstrue that stuff. That's what
And this is in the National Center. I think it probably went into the database of NamUs, and so there is, and that's all sounding a lot like what happened with. The secret witness program was also. I read a lot of that story. I remember reading it because. Kim Lindy Allen and the other Santa Rosa hitchhiker murders, the dangers of hitchhiking. This is, I know you find it hard to believe, but there's so much of this database that's anagrammable and gets a story. And then you find out.
I understand that, but this is written in 2022. They couldn't report the news straight the day it happened. So what we're hearing. Go ahead.
I don't think that's her point. There's also the word eureka, and I don't know about the timing of that, but isn't that in one of the Zodiac Killer's, what do you call it, postmarks? One of his things he sent in, eureka.
Yes.
So I know what she's getting at there. She's just saying there's certain phrases and certain terms being used.
I know, but we can't pick or choose those phrases anonymously or randomly to determine what.
Harken back. They harken back.
Yes, they do. There is definitely some connection or some type of coincidence between the statements that are being made, and I don't believe in coincidences. You guys are right. I believe that there's a connection between everything. However, what I'm saying is this is from 2022, and they couldn't get the news straight when it happened. Everybody reports something completely different about the case. So who are we to determine what is true and what is not, and what will form a message? Is all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
That's how you figure it out, because if it comes up with the same names, John Edward Walsh Jr., Reve Walsh, and cocaine, and Sam Giancana, that's how you.
But I think you could, if you pick the right things out, you could come up with those things.
You're not getting this. You're not getting this, because John Edward Walsh and Reve Walsh are still around, and they're doing a lot of stuff. But anyways, so we'll get past that. I'm just saying that you can find a whole bunch of information that it matches facts and figures that have now evolved. But anyways, that's what I was saying.
You want to hear a little side note to all this? When you said the word cocaine, I didn't know this, but I learned the other day that the Secret Service found cocaine in the White House during Biden's administration. They wanted to destroy it, get rid of it. And they were. So I'm not kidding. I was just on the news yesterday. It was on the assassination attempt footage, and I had never heard that before. Thank you very much for the deep state news. But anyway, that's all I have to say about that. That's all. But I know where Harriet's coming from about that. I get that.
I feel like I watched in a documentary with Bush them trying to bust somebody over cocaine during, was that the Iran Contra scandal? Like they were trying to set somebody literally up right outside of the White House. Yeah.
Trafficking money. It's a cash crop. That's why.
Of course it is.
Yeah, and that's why
it was under Reagan. Under Reagan, Bush, but I'm Republican, but I admit it. I'm seeing a lot about Reagan. I mean, he's got a dark side. He was the ultimate cocaine cowboy. The cocaine was flowing; it was everywhere. So enough of that. I'm just wow.
The reality,
that's all I had.
It's a cash crop, and the reality is that.
All right, we won't make it to OCCK if we keep talking about cocaine in the White House.
Okay.
Now, our next murder is on October 16th of 1975. 19-year-old Susan Lori Dye under the overpass of Highway 101 near Dutch Creek Road outside Cloverdale, northeast of Santa Rosa. So this is another one that's attributed to the Santa Rosa hitchhiker murders. Do you have any information on Susan Lori Dye? Harriet?
No, but that is Grace Smith's list, and that's one to do.
Gotcha. All right. So she's originally from Santa Clara. She's 115 pounds with long brown hair and eyes, fully clothed and placed where she laid rather than thrown from a car. Hitchhiking home from strangled. I don't know if I did that right. Hands had been tied. I think maybe that should have been its own line, that she was strangled. Hands had been tied. Her dog was found at a nearby Cloverdale school with a piece of rope tied to it that matched the rope on her backpack found nearby. She had died on an hour before she was found and had eaten an hour before that. And that reminded me of the babysitter killer, which we're going to be entering into here with the Oakland County Child Murders. Research info: she was made to look different and left out in the open, as this killer has shown the eagerness to do. I wanted to know what her family connections were, but I wasn't really able to find a lot about this. Now, on October 28th of 1975, we have Jack actually marrying Nora Chacon in Reno, Nevada, and we see a 4-month break in murders from October 1975 to, well, I thought March of 1976. So it's really not a 4-month. It's more like a 2-month. I believe we're going to see more murders start to pick up. Oh, here we go. And well, this one is actually attributed to D'Angelo, so I have now put his name on it. I don't feel the need to go completely through it, but a suspect that it was a police officer chasing him down, and he shot back, hitting the police officer's flashlight, but evidently D'Angelo got away. And the only reason why I left this in here is that this may likely be where the sighting in that original composite that we had seen in my research in 2016 that showed a completely different person than D'Angelo as the suspect that they were looking for. But that's all I wanted to say on that. Christmas of 1975, we see that Jack and Nora are at the new house at 5600 San Vicente Way in North Highlands, California. Jack appears to have black streaks in his hair in some of these pictures, and it's parted on the same side as one of the composites in the Sacramento nurses' murders. The 1976 Ancestry.com confirms this address for Jack W. Mila Terrence. I don't understand why his name comes up as Jack W. Mila Terrence, but that's what was found through Ancestry.com. We know it's Jack. I mean, Jack and Terrence. Well, Jack W. I don't know where the Mila came from. December 23rd of 1975 is the first doctor's report of a work-related injury from Cameron Park Shell. Jack is obviously needing some money because we know he's getting ready. We know now he's getting ready to leave the state. Dr. Robert M. Herman report November 1st of 1974 indicates that no specific diagnosis could be determined. Dr. Robert M. Herman also reported on April 11th of 1974. He indicates, after inspecting Jack's hands, I believe that he is considerably more active than he has reported to me. He also has several recent scars and areas of contusion on his left thorax and left shoulder, which he states occurred while playing with the neighborhood children and falling to the pavement. Dr. Robert F. Fischel report May 20th of 1975. I feel this man could be working at this time if he so desired. So Jack's back issues are probably a ruse. And Dr. John Lavorna declares Jack fit to work. So here we have this person who's claiming to be injured, trying to take out a work comp case against Cameron Park Shell. We also know that he does include the South Lake Tahoe City Linen Company in this particular request as well. So he is complaining and stating that he's incapable of working, yet he can be outside playing with the neighborhood kids, if that's what we believe. Does anybody believe he was playing with the kids?
No.
No.
Not in a nice way.
He might have been trying to teach them something, but as in what he thinks is playing. He's really mixed up at that time point. I'm seeing it. Jack is admitting it in the codes I got.
You know what's crazy is that I have an ex that used to say to other people, "Hey, want to go play in the backyard?" And what he meant is, give me an opportunity to just whoop your ass. Ooh, I said that out loud. Sorry. Yeah, it was a very negative thing and something different to everybody for sure.
Yeah.
Here's the pictures of what Jack looked like in 1975. We can see that hair parted on the side. We can see the dark coloration. We can even see some of the dark streaks in his beard. Zodiac was described to have been wearing brown pleated pants with shiny shoes. You can clearly see in this picture, Jack is wearing brown pleated pants with shiny shoes. The things that hit home. So this is at the North Highlands residence where him and Nora were at that particular point in time in December of 1975. And we can see the Christmas tree behind Jack. Here's some continuations of those pictures. And here is actually one of the composites that came about in regards to the nurses' murders in the Sacramento area. This was one of 3 composites that were given. I found that each composite that was given gave us a completely different look. But I want to go back and look now and see if one of those composites were consistent with one of the composites in the D'Angelo case. So we may be looking at, a completely different person once again, but it's all in this presentation so that it can all be considered. Now, the OCCK murders beginning in January of 1976. So synopsis on the cases. Now, this actually times better than the Minnesota murders that occurred in 1974 with Jack actively going and scouting the new residents, because we're going to see that he is moving very shortly at this point in time to Minnesota. And we see that the Oakland County Child Murders pick up on January of 1976. This was one of the recent articles that I found that gives us a brief synopsis on the case. So I'm going to read that, and then we're going to hop into more information in regards to these cases. So this is done by Eaton Shear on April 13th of 2018. It says the Oakland County Child Killer Part 3, The King's Discovery. After 42 years, it seems that most Americans don't think about the mystery murderer that terrified the country long ago. The killer, who the media dubbed the babysitter, has been long forgotten, as well as hopes of finding him. Some of the only people still actively pursuing the case are the family of Timothy King, the 4th and final victim of the murders. Now, they say 4th. I'm going to show you guys 7. We're going to talk about 7 different murders. And I believe that the first ones were when Jack was scouting. And then the balance of them will have been when he was actively living outside of California in the Minnesota area. For a while, Barry King, Timothy's father, was content with the Oakland County Police's work. He truly thought that the authorities had done their best. That changed in 2006 when a phone call led him to take the investigation into his own hands. The call was from Patrick Coffey, an old neighbor. See, here's the Patrick Coffey. You sent me this article, I think, Terry.
Right.
The call was from Patrick Coffey, an old neighbor who had grown up across the street from the Kings. He was a child at the time of the murders and was inspired by them to become an attorney so he could put criminals behind bars. Much of the reason I went into this profession was because of what happened to Tim, Coffey said. Coffey described an encounter he had recently experienced to King. He had been speaking with Lawrence Wasser, a polygraph examiner from Southfield. Southfield is going to become very important. I want everybody to key in on this word Southfield, because we're going to show you some. I'm getting goosebumps just saying that. We're going to show you some things that are more than a coincidence. Coffey had mentioned that he became an attorney because of the Oakland County Child Killer case. This prompted Wasser to claim that he knew the killer's identity. Wasser said he had done a polygraph test on the killer long ago in a case unrelated to the child killings. The unidentified culprit had somehow let it slip that he was the Oakland County Child Killer. Wasser also mentioned that the killer and his attorney were now deceased. He did not reveal any names. Later, when contacted by police, Wasser would claim that Pat Coffey's information is totally bogus. Coffey still stands by what he heard. After hearing Coffey's revelations, Barry King was dumbfounded. After all, he hadn't heard of a single advancement in the case since the task force disbanded in 1978. King informed his daughter, Kathy Broad, of the news. She contacted Livingston police with the new information. They now knew that the killer and his lawyer were both dead. Now, they're making a claim to substantiate something Wasser is saying was totally bogus. So who do we believe, really? This narrowed the suspects down to one man, Chris Bush. By 2006, neither the public nor King had heard of Bush's suicide or the drawing of the screaming child in his apartment. Barry King said that Bush was the best lead they had. However, in 2006, police told King that Bush was no longer a suspect. This led King to believe that the police were hiding information. He filed a request for Bush's police file under the Freedom of Information Act. The police handed over 3,411 pages of documents to the King family on December 15th. 2010. Barry King learned a considerable amount from the files. For one, there was a lot of information on Chris Bush's history. In 1977, he and an accomplice, Gregory Green, were charged with molesting a boy in Flint. When interrogated, Green said that Chris Bush had killed Mark Steppens, When interrogated, Green said that, his accomplice, said that Chris Bush had killed Mark Stebbins, the first victim in the killings. He said that he and Green had planned to abduct and molest young boys. He added that they had searched for boys in Ferndale, Royal Oaks, and Berkeley. Ferndale and Royal Oaks are more places to key in as we go through this. Yeah. These were the locations where the first three... What's that?
Ferndale, California?
No.
Oh,
no,
okay.
Michigan. These were the locations where the first three victims had been abducted. Bush, on the other hand, admitted to being a pedophile, but not to killing anyone. He passed a polygraph test. Neither of the two was investigated any further. Green pleaded guilty and received life in prison, while Bush was released on probation. We'll talk about why he was released on probation. To this day, it is unclear why they received different sentences for the same charges. We know. 2 months after Bush's release, Timothy King, the last victim, was abducted. The documents revealed that Chris Bush drove a blue Vega with a white stripe, which is why this blue Vega keeps coming up in these crimes. This car looks very similar to the infamous blue Gremlin with a stripe that was present at Timothy King's abduction. It is possible that the witnesses would have confused the two cars. Barry King still believes that Bush was the killer. There is evidence supporting him. Bush had molested kids in the past, and after killing himself 2 years following Timothy's death, police found bloody ropes and a drawing of a screaming boy in his apartment. The boy bore a strong resemblance to Mark Stebbins, the same boy Green claimed Bush had killed. It took King 28 years to find this information, 28 years of blindly wondering who killed his son, while the police held precious information just out of his reach. He didn't even know about the drawing of the boy. While it bears a strong resemblance to Mark Stebbins than to his own son, this information is still crucial. In 2008, King convinced investigators to re-examine Bush's polygraph test. The results came back different this time. Detectives discovered that either Bush had not been telling the truth or the tests were inconclusive. The authorities also got a search warrant to search Bush's old house. No evidence was found. In 2010, the police announced that Bush was no longer a suspect. King, however, thinks that the authorities are hiding something. He believes that the police had found Bush guilty of the killings years after the case but covered it up. According to his theory, they did this to hide their embarrassing police work and or to protect the status of Bush's father. King has posted this theory and all of his evidence proving Bush's involvement on his blog, a father's story -OCCK.com. Whenever the case is re-examined, Barry King always insists that Chris Bush was behind these killings. Jessica Cooper, the Oakland County prosecutor, feels differently. He believes that he has found the killer, she explained. We've explained to him why the person who he's chosen is not. Cooper also said that they'd prefer to focus on a living suspect. Even if we could prove it, we couldn't prosecute it, she said. King still thinks that the killer's identity is out there somewhere. The identity of the Oakland County Child Killer remains a mystery that may never be solved. However, his killing spree will never be forgotten. In a world filled with malevolence, the only true way to destroy evil is to stick together and not lose hope. If this can be achieved, maybe atrocities like the Oakland County Child Murders can be prevented. All right, so let's hear it. Terry B.
Can I say what I know about Mark's? Oh, Terry B first. There, yeah, Terry B. He knows a lot.
Go ahead, say something. Go ahead.
You go first.
You'll probably be quicker, Harriet. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll be really quick. I found out that Mark Stebbins appeared to be Robert Stebbins' son. Robert Stebbins worked for Nixon and then went into, I think, the State Department field and helped get Tot Tran Harriman, who became a future victim of Jack's, out of Vietnam when it was collapsing, and also Kathy Wynn, a future anthrax victim of Jack's. So that's number one for me. Okay.
Wow.
That's new to me, but that's cool.
Jack probably did kill Mark Stebbins because that's also involved with Watergate and missing transcripts. So that's a lot to throw in there. But then also, is not Barry King an attorney?
Yes, he was very much.
Barry King.
I think you actually,
Okay,
I think
then
Terry B actually brought up the Barry King, was wearing the buttons you said to promote something about Vietnam. What was that?
That's a guess on my part, is that the button hints that are on the Zodiac. I don't want to cut Harriet off. She has something more she wants to say, but
just one more really quick. Barry King, I believe, represented somebody who was connected to Little Lenny Schultz, which is brought up in the Zodiac communications about things going on a ship and stuff like that. But that was my two big major things I had. But I know Terry B has really covered a lot about this, and you about the Oakland child murders. But that's my two input.
That's
two big
cool.
things.
And let's go back to that. That's very cool. Barry King served in Vietnam in some capacity, and it was higher ranking capacity. Something to do with repatriating Vietnamese people that were in the militarized zone further south and rebuilding their villages further south. And if you do something like that, you're going to want to organize the names. And it's my guess, just a guess, that perhaps he made some buttons for these people to wear to keep track of who was who in both English and in Vietnamese. That's just a guess on my part. But he played some role there. And that's the only evidence I have. But I think the evidence that you indicated, Harriet, might be more spot on. I don't know. But I don't think we should go down that road. I think that we should go down that road. But anyway, these all happened within a fairly short window of time, these 7 victims. So if you want to say something about this here, Nanette, go ahead. But I just sent this document your way. I got this from Kathy Broad, and I don't know the veracity of it, but there it is. And those are all suspicious, although some of them, I think they got one of these victims. They've got somebody clearly convicted on it that was probably responsible for one of the babysitter ones. But so go ahead and say what you're going to say next, or what you want me to say.
I was hoping that I could read this better. When you blow this document up, Terry B, are you capable of reading these specs inside of here? Because this is a comparison of facts surrounded the 7 SOC cases.
Well, let me just see it. Just take me a moment. I'll look at my own files and tell you that, because I believe so. I think so.
All right. Well, I will continue on with what I have then while you do that.
Go for it.
So what we're looking at on my screen now is the comparison of facts surrounded 7 cases. So I want to stop everybody when you think it was just 4 murders or whatever. There were more murders that were happening in Michigan that can be attributed, obviously, based on the comparison of the facts. So we have 7 murders in 14 months. We had the Zodiac, who had 7 accepted victims in 11 months. So the time frame and for the way that all wraps itself up is pretty similar.
Okay. Mine is in a JPEG format, which was converted from PDF, and it is readable. So if you need a better copy, I'll have to do it a different way.
Please, yes. No, I absolutely would love to see what the information wrapped around that is. We do have some information. I just feel like there's a lot more that could be gleaned from that list of information that actually cross connects these murders. Sure. So that's going to bring us to our first murder, January 15th of 1976, Cynthia Ray Cadu in Roseville, Michigan. Again, this would be, in my mind, the time frame in which Jack would actively be scouting out supposedly scouting out the new residents, but it puts him less than 12 hours away, where he's about to move to is 12 hours away from where these crimes occur. Her body was found on Franklin Road in Bloomfield Township. She was bludgeoned to death. Her skull was crushed by a blunt instrument. She was 16 years old, raped and sodomized, possibly by more than one person, rumors abducted by 4 men, and clothing kept by a girlfriend. I don't know how a girlfriend would have kept her clothing, but we do know that there was some information about a John Hackfield friend of Jack's that came to live with him and the family in Texas when they made the move from Minnesota. This guy came with Jack to Texas, per Dennis. It's approximately 15 miles from Carol Settlemeyer's home, which is 17 minutes away. And we found this phone book in Jack's things, which belonged to somebody called Carol Settlemeyer. Her location at the time was Springfield, Michigan. So this is why Springfield is going to keep coming up, you guys. It is the central location to all of these crimes we are about to hear. Go ahead, Terry.
Hatfield is in that book that you've got, the one that has the flowery covering on the address.
I realize that. Yeah,
okay.
I realize that, and I haven't gotten to that yet. But this is what Dennis was telling me before even knowing that name was in this phone book of Carol Settlemyre. Dennis had told me either John Hatfield or Hackfield, and I couldn't remember which one, so I just put both names in here.
Right. That's going to be very key when we get to looking at the Chris Bush death, which was definitely not a suicide. He was murdered, and that blanket at the foot of his bed is the dead giveaway, and that's a Zodiac Jack 101 crime. That doesn't even fit the decorum of that room. That matches the cover of that book that you have, Nanette. So that's going to be big.
I heard you talk about that. Very interesting. Cool. I do put up a URL here for info on the OCCK murders. If you want to take that down, it is https://www.ncjrs.gov/pdf-files1/digitization/53805 ncjrs.pdf. And that will contain a lot of the information that I've used in this presentation. That brings us to the next murder, which is merely 4 days after, on January 19th of 1976. Sheila Schrock in Birmingham, Michigan. She's 14 years of age, found nude, raped, and sodomized, shot several times. 1967 Cadillac is involved per an eyewitness. I wanted to check a Michigan license plate that was found with that phone book. I did find that I actually kept the number, though I didn't shoot a picture of the actual license plate. So maybe we have some information for them to go off of. Eyewitnesses describes a man as thin, young, white male, 18 to 25 years old, 5 foot 10 inches to 6 feet tall, with a sparse beard, pointed chin, and prominent nose. Man hung out in a crowd asking questions. Suspects supposedly broke into 3 other houses before murdering Schrock and climbed into the described vehicle. This may be the second male I believe is involved with Jack in these murders. House is 5 miles from Carol Settlemyre. Again, 11 minutes. That's that phone book and Jack's belongings. 14 years old and last seen at 7-Eleven, a convenience store where Laura Miller and so many other people were stolen. Found June 6, 1976, stabbed to death. So I'm confused because the first information stated that she was shot several times, and now more information is saying stabbed to death. So this is what I mean by the information that we're being given, Harriet, and what's being produced. What do we believe? What information from this would you take? That she was stabbed to death or that she was shot several times?
Well, I would try to cross-verify it with some old NamUs files. So that's and then some other file systems, and then see what they're saying. And if they're saying it's both, could be both, then you would use both, because then you anagram it and you'll get a whole amazing story of Jack Torrance did stab her 3 times, but his co-conspirator, the Irishman, I'm making this stuff up, shot her 3 times. So to make sure the victim would not talk.
So not making it up. You're just stating as a hypothetical, not really making things up. But that this is a possible.
Because I'm seeing that often. So that there were 2 people killing, blah blah blah, to make sure they wouldn't talk.
Well, so here we can see where Birmingham, Michigan is literally just minutes away from Southfield, Michigan, which is where the owner of that phone book found in Jack's belongings was living at the time. And I want everybody to understand that the reason why this phone book became such a hot topic is when I started reviewing the information inside of it, I was able to contact her family and find out that during this, shortly after Timothy King's murder, that she up and just left the state, moving to California, literally back to South Lake Tahoe, where Jack just moved from, and did not say anything to her family for almost 30 years. So that in itself is kind of a big, huge, what the heck? Who the hell just takes ups and takes off and says nothing to their family?
7-Eleven footnote, by the way.
Right. February 15th. February 15th, 1976. We are actually at Mark Stebbins at this point. So found February 19th, 1976 on 10 Mile Road in Greenfield in Ferndale, Michigan. He was 12 years old, wearing blue hooded parka. There's a lot of blue jackets in these cases. A lot of blue jackets, so we had blue sweatshirts in another case and blue jackets in another case. Like, he's left in an American Legion Hall, which is that military connection and bar connection. He was held for 4 days, found at 15660 West 10 Mile Road, Southfield, Michigan. So now he's literally taken from Ferndale, Michigan, or found at Ferndale, Michigan, and let's see, or for 10 Mile Road. And then where is I wanted to see where my Springfield, Michigan was in between here. So that we'll see if we can tell as I go through. So February 19th of 1976, dumped on a snowbank, bathed and cleaned, strangled and sexually assaulted with an object. So here we have maybe this is why they couldn't correctly identify as to whether or not the last person had actually been raped, because maybe they were sexually assaulted with an object, which I do find is consistent with some of the things that I believe is connected to the Zodiac case.
Well, that Stebbins victim was found in on the front of a parking lot. And I sent you the picture of that. Didn't you get that?
I did, but this says left in an American Legion Hall, so that could have been in a parking
lot. No, that whoever wrote that report's full of crap. He left from an American Legion Hall. That was
I might have read that wrong. Then.
It was,
and I do have other people. We have victims that were taken from things like the Moose Lodge and the American Legion. 100%.
His mother worked there. His mother worked there. There's information to show that this was a sophisticated crime because her phone number was unlisted and she could not understand how anybody got her phone number. So Mrs. her name was something else, I think, other than Stebbins.
So who got her phone number? What do you mean?
Well, there's one of the documents that I sent you was a taunting call that came to her place right when the cops were in her house, and he said some nasty things to her. And including that he was going to essentially rape her or something to that effect. But I sent one of those documents to you, and that's for the Stebbins case.
And I may not. I sent you a
picture of him laying in the parking lot. That's where he was placed on display in the front of a busy place.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to see with several of these particular victims, that the killer did not have a problem splaying them out, I believe, not too far from the Troy Police Department in Michigan. So we're going to see that public display just like Black Dahlia.
They claimed that there was sperm in his throat, too. And I had to double check that, but that's what they claim in the documents and the autopsy. So anyway, go ahead.
All right, you're going to definitely know more about this than me. So I'm just giving us the blanketed information, and you are going to fill that in. So it shows that the dump site is 5 miles and only 9 minutes from Carol Settlemeyer's house. The targeted area is Oakland County. We know that Jack is from the Oakland area in California, the Bay Area. There you've got Oakland, San Jose, Santa Clara, all these very interesting things. But I think that in itself is literally a coincidence, since if these are targets, then it wouldn't matter where they were at. He was going after them.
Probably coincidence.
So here's also, you'd sent me across the picture that was found in Chris Bush's. I just think that is so blatant. I think the picture you showed me, and we're going to get to that this is literally taped to his closet door. If he was involved with this murder, if he was at any point in time, had he been responsible for what happened to this child, would you post this openly in your room? Hell no.
That's a dead giveaway. Pardon the expression. That's a dead giveaway that was planted there. And it's got a Zodiac crosshair symbol on the earlobe of the damn thing. And it's got all these markings that Jack loved.
I have that. Yeah, we're going to get to that because I do have that in there. So I just put this one up to show people the drawing that was found in Chris Bush's bedroom upon his suicide.
We have a lot to say about the Chris Bush bedroom. We can get
Now, Chris Bush's father is a corporate, I think he's a corporate accountant for GMAC, both domestic and international. So he's a big wig with lots of money. So when we look back to why did Chris Bush get a different sentence than Green for the same rape of a boy, this is exactly why Chris Bush got a completely different sentence.
Yeah, rich people buy justice.
Yes, they do.
Yes.
Now, so this is that picture of the parking lot where you stated that this is the body of Mark Stebbins, correct?
Right.
Okay, and then this is actually the well, maybe it's, I thought it was on a closet door, but it looks like it could be just hung on the wall. This image is from Chris Bush death scene. A clear copy of this drawing clearly shows several JT single or compound and inverted inclusions, as well as crosshair symbols on the earlobe, as found on California Zodiac Killer case documents.
Yes, absolutely.
So, and that's your take on it, because you've studied this particular drawing quite intensely.
I have pretty good copies of that. I believe I sent you, but
no, we're going to get to it. It's coming. It's coming. Okay. One of the things I thought I would throw up first is that you sent me an investigation follow-up, and it says details officers Dean and Sykes went to the area where the body was found. Officers were on the east side of the wall in the parking lot of the New Orleans Mall. So that's in a mall parking lot, basically, right?
Right.
Officers looked down and observed a small 2-inch by 4-inch card with the name Mark Stebbins on it. It is a card that was passed out at the funeral home. Card was preserved for prints, and the TOT, Chaplain Ponovich, Corporal Ponovich, see diagram for exact location were found. And Terry B has noticed that the placement of Stebbins' funeral card at body placement site is Jack 101. Jack Zodiac.
Right.
Well, we do see that in the Laura Miller case, Tim Miller has indicated that somebody had gone back and desecrated basically the shallow grave in which his daughter had been buried after her murder, and dropped off some X-rated CDs and some things of that nature. So returning to the crime scene or returning to the shallow graves, as we know with many of these, we're finding bodies within, yards of other bodies. We're finding body parts, especially in the League City deaths. We're actually finding the hands of one victim in a shallow grave with the body of another victim. So we clearly have somebody who is repeating and going back to the last place that they either buried or dumped a body.
Well, 7 victims concentrated in that area in a reasonably short period of time.
Very short period of time. And the whole time that Jack is in Minnesota, 12 hours away with family. Nora has family in Michigan, so reasons to be there. And we know that he's not working. He's not doing anything with his time, but he's certainly moving around with money that I'm not sure how he's getting. I mean, we know he sold the property in Mount Auckham. They sold the car before they left. All of these things transpired in late 1975, previous to the move. So maybe that's where he got the money, but he seems to move around a lot freely for somebody who has no income.
Yeah, he's, I'm seeing it. He's definitely connected to the deaths of Sam Giancana. He got paid for that one. And that's 1975. And he's connected to helping kill Hoffa. And so
Michigan, right?
So yeah, he's right there in 75. So that's where the money came from. Sure. And so that's my take on that.
When was Giancana killed?
Giancana, let's try to get these straight. They're months apart. I think Giancana was killed June 30th, 1975, and Hoffa is July 31st, 75. So they're a month apart, and Jack is definitely in that area helping to get those two dead. So Jack.
Well, and he's not working. We know that he indicates that he was purportedly on this disability from March to June of 75, which he's complaining about in his work comp case for Cameron Park Shell. But all of the doctor visits says that he appears to be doing way more than he says he is. He's got injuries that he accounts for playing with children, and he is far more active than he is stating that he has been. Right. He claimed to have been bedridden during that time, and that's not what the doctors found. We are actually
No,
down
he's
to
in
our last
Michigan.
minute, you guys. Terry B, we're going to pick up next week. In regards to this, we are going to do that pre-record Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. my time, 11 a.m. Eastern, and we'll pick up and continue the OCC cases from that point, and we'll start with your take on this drawing. That's all we have, you guys, today. I thank you for being here. Everybody have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next Friday.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Birthday.
Thanks, Harriet.
Take care.
Oh,